Good evening. We've got a special NBA episode today, and it's all about the big man. I'm Paulo Del Rosario.
And I'm Jet Manuel. And speaking of big men, we're kicking things off with the legendary NBA champion who flew all the way to the Philippines.
Now, Strong Group Philippines welcomed the one and only Dwight Howard to the country as they gear up for the Dubai International Tournament from January 19 to 28. Now, they share their thoughts on repping Team Philippines in the upcoming competition.
Just all the fans, I went to Thailand on a visit last year, and I ran into a lot of Filipinos out there, and they said, you gotta come back to the Philippines, we love you. And I said, you know what, I gotta come back. So when Drake called me and asked me, I told him, hey, I'll be free and I'll make it possible. It's a new age, new era of basketball where you got to be able to shoot, space the floor, and just be able to play outside and in. Obviously, I'll never get away from my bread and butter, which is in the paint. Our focus is going to Dubai and playing against whatever team is out there, representing for the Philippines, and winning.
We always talk about communicating. Dwight's so great, so vocal. Same thing with Andre. He's somebody who right now is more of that veteran leader role. Like he's matured so much, so different. So he's always guiding and helping the other guys. So yeah, they're a big plus to our team, and he's been really supportive of what we've been doing. But overall, they're starting to get a feel for each other. They're starting to know the strengths of our local players too. So it's progressing the right way, I'd say.
And joining us tonight is another big man, a legend. Just like me and Dwight Howard. We got basketball analyst Isaac Go. I have no idea.
Isaac!
Natawa ako dyan! That's why I pause. The writers here. But, jumping right to it, Mr. Big Man Legend, Isaac. We see Dwight suiting up for the Philippines, suiting up to play in Dubai with a couple of other great players. What do you feel, is this impact right now and just playing, representing country?
I think number one, again, it's another treat for Filipino fans. Parang, we had the World Cup and all these, Filipino basketball fans are now getting even more spoiled with having a guy like Dwight Howard, who came from the NBA, played for the Lakers, of course. You have to say that he won a ring with the Lakers. And now he's here in the Philippines. Parang we're starting to get closer and parang we're in touch with the NBA.
Yeah, it's funny because one of the things that he did say in that interview that went a bit viral is that gusto niya maging import sa PBA. I want to see Isaac Go versus Dwight Howard. I don't know what's going to happen there.
I'll just foul him. I'll use my foul. But what's funny is, I remember growing up, and I said to myself, I want to be like Dwight Howard.
No, really?
I wanted to be like Dwight.
Kita naman sa laro mo.
Okay. Then I realized, there's no way I can be Dwight Howard. Come on. Would I realize it early? Because imagine mo now, trying to dunk in the PBA, just spin move, sending shots back 5 rows back. What could have been?
What could have been? Of course, height is an issue, but then
Athleticism
is not an issue though for Dwight Howard. Height is an issue because of yung mga requirement. All right, just to be completely clear. But apart from that, Isaac, you take a look at the way he's changed his game, his body. He actually did mention it in the interviews as well. Na he needed to evolve the way he played. He's no longer just a dominant force inside. And I think kita naman natin sa katawan niya, the way that he's been playing, even in Taiwan, for those who weren't too familiar, he was shooting from the perimeter. He was just given a lot of free reign and having a lot of fun.
And remember that when Dwight first came, Dwight was first a point guard, and he had that late growth spurt. And remember when he came to the league, bowling ball shoulders, looks like Jet Manuel, really well built. And then now he slimmed down a lot like Pau. Slimmed down, lost a lot of weight. And now, he seems more mobile. Taking a lot of jump shots like Jet. And parang yun na eh. Parang he's having fun. Parang he's enjoying basketball, I think, after a very long time.
Hindi ko alam kung seryoso ka eh.
Medyo slight serious, pero slight Pero yung bolahan, nandun talaga. But, aside from that, Dwight, we followed his career. I think we grew up in an era we actually enjoyed watching him in the NBA.
Yeah.
But he was not included in the top 75 list. That little, dink on his career. What your opinion about it?
He should have been part of that list. I think there are guys on that list who eventually down the line will make that list, but they still don't have the longevity. Remember, Dwight played 18 years in the league, 19,000 points, 14,000 rebounds, the only 3-time consecutive Defensive Player of the Year. And remember, we were talking for a stretch that Dwight Howard was arguably the best big man in the league in that stretch.
Why do you think he did not make it? Because some people are looking at, is it because of his personality? Maybe it was just not fitting what he was saying, how his antics compared to his production on the floor. Was it just the injuries? Because you take a look at the numbers, you take a look at the impact on the floor. The argument is always going to be there for Dwight Howard, but unable to make it in.
I think number one is recency bias. Remember, a lot of the people who voted in probably saw the last 3-4 years of Dwight where he, again, was still productive, but not anymore the dominant force. And I think some of the things, of course, he said in the media also affected that. But it's also that, remember, after spending 8 years in Orlando, maybe spent 3 years with Houston, he kept jumping from team to team. There's a lot of where he spent 1 year in Washington, 1 year in New Orleans. And probably that did affect how people saw Dwight. But I feel he was robbed. I feel that he deservedly so should be in the top 75 list. And probably that's the hottest take you've heard from my mouth for the longest.
I don't know if I don't know if it's
But
the hottest.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. But going back now, and that's the reason why we're talking about him. He's playing in Dubai for the Philippines, and we've seen the lineup. We've seen the other players that have played in the NBA that are coming to help him. What do you think he in particular will bring to the table for the Philippine team?
I think number one, experience. Not a lot of guys played 18 years in the league. Remember, he went up in a year where he played against Yao, Shaq.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys. And also, he provides that size that and remember, he may be 38 years old, but he can still get up, he can still block shot. He can still be that anchor because if you look at our local squad, the team that's comprised of the locals, it's really Balti who's only the real, and Allen Diwag really bigs, but they're more like 4s or 3s already. So really having that inside presence, someone they can throw the ball to, go get a bucket inside, and someone just to give a little bit our local shooters a little bit more space.
Yeah, when you have a Dwight Howard and an Andre Blatch on the floor for the strong group athletics, you cannot, you're going to expect a lot of fireworks there.
Yeah.
But let's look forward to that tournament. What can we expect from a Dwight Howard, from a Filipino fan, just watching the tournament, watching the strong group go into that tournament in Dubai?
I think me and Jet can speak from experience is that really there's going to be no one who's going to be able to stop Andre Blatch and Dwight Howard in the post. And I think I got to see that personally when Andre Blatch throughout the tournament was shooting, playing to the outside, shooting a lot of threes. But when it mattered, in the finals, he got the ball, planted his feet in the post, and no one could stop him. Like, you send double team, triple teams. Andre and Dwight do have the ability to pass, but even so, like, they'll go up against these guys and probably get a good shot.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about Dwight, but there's even more to say about other big men. So you're not going anywhere, Mr. Legend. You're going to stick with us
I thought
here.
that was you. I thought you were Mr.
Both of them are allegedly. Allegedly. Who wrote this?
And after the break, Isaac Go breaks down his top 5 greatest big men in the NBA history. Keep it here. You're watching the game. And welcome back to the game. With NBA champion Dwight Howard driving Pinoy fans crazy in Manila, it's time to take a step back and talk about the greatest NBA big man of all time. Still with us is legendary UAP big man and NBA Philippines All-Star analyst Isaac Go. So before we start, Isaac, who else is better to talk about big men with you, other than you? But you gave a list prior to this show with your greatest big man. But just to put things in context, what comprised of that list? I mean, what came in? Talking about, are we talking about centers or are we talking about just legit height restrictions?
Criteria mo.
I think criteria.
I think on that list, I only have one that I think people would probably say isn't a center per se. But for the rest of it, I think that there's not a lot of contention really when you have this discussion. I think there are 8 guys in that conversation where if you name any of those 8, most people would probably agree with that list. So, but I had to add a wild card a little bit, but I don't think you'd be surprised if I said it.
You said big men, and when you say big men, that doesn't necessarily mean center. In fact, this guy that we're going to talk about first, Tim Duncan, who has the most boring nickname in the entire history of the NBA, the Big Fundamental. All right, we're going to see his numbers here. And 5-time NBA champion, 3 times Finals MVP, 2 times season MVP. As we mentioned, ito, 4 yung laro nito eh. Considered as the greatest power forward in the entire history of the NBA. So why him in particular amongst all of the names out there?
I think number one is, if he played today, he's still a center. And back in that era where he played a lot of power forward because that was still the era where teams would go too big. You had Ralph Sampson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Mark Eaton, I think, and Karl Malone. I had to pull out the Jazz one.
Yeah, you
just
did.
for
That was good. That was good. Greg Ostertag.
Greg Ostertag. So,
You're pulling out more Jazz.
that's why I still considered him in that conversation because even if he played today, he'll probably play the 5. And remember, towards the latter parts of his career, he was playing the 5. So, of course, that went to and of course, I can make this list. I can be as biased as I want. I want to put Tim Duncan on that list.
No, I mean, like, he just ignored, if we're talking about 4s, Charles Barkley. Karl Malone,
Hey,
those
even,
guys.
In fairness, even Charles Barkley came out and said, if you asked who's more dominant, him or Tim Duncan, he said
Tim Duncan. Okay.
I mean, you said the word dominant. I mean, if we're going to look at dominance in the big man position, the number 2 guy on your list is probably, definitely the most dominant center that we've seen play basketball, and that's Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, you see his numbers over here. 4-time NBA champion, 3-time Finals MVP, season MVP, 8th in the top 75 Hall of Famer. I mean, why Shaq?
Because honestly, can you think of it?
Yeah.
Can you not put Shaq?
Speechless, yeah.
In all honesty, I think that you can never describe what he did because people always talk about, what happened to Shaq play today? Shaq would still dominate no matter what era you put Shaq. He will dominate because, remember, in his younger days in Orlando, he was really athletic, really fast, but he still had that mass. Then when he went to the Lakers, and what I think a lot of us have come accustomed to, is where he started putting a lot of weight. He could still run the floor, but his goal was, I'm going to put you in the basket, I'm going to dunk on you, and you can't push me out.
Yeah, I think the key phrase there was, I'm going to put you in the basket, which he literally would try to do every single time he'd back people down. In fact, because he got his jersey retired recently by the Orlando Magic, they released a highlight package. And in that highlight package, he broke the backboard at least twice. That's just how dominant he was.
They had to change the design of the backboard just because of him.
That's true. That's true. They changed the backboards, the ones we use right now, because of a Shaquille O'Neal. So again, for me, no argument here. But who he has next?
I mean, the next guy on your list, Isaac, I think it's kind of a given, but not a lot of people know why. But just look at the number of rings that this guy has. You put number 3, Bill Russell. I think the winningest center or big man of all time. You see here, 11-time NBA champion, all the other accolades that came with him. Why Bill Russell?
And I think that you don't talk about the history of the league. And so far, people I've mentioned is, maybe except for Tim Duncan, is you don't go through the history of the NBA without talking about what they did on and off the court. Remember, Bill Russell, 11 rings, people may say like the competition was weak, but no matter how competition is, winning 11 times, and remember, he became a playing coach towards the end of his career. He became an advocate for social rights movement. So he did more than what the game did. He did so much more, he gave so much about. And would we still be talking about the history of the NBA without this guy?
I absolutely don't think so, because Bill Russell, one of the more iconic members of the NBA family, and another one that is not from our generation, but we have to give credit and to let people know that yes, we try to do our research also.
Yeah, of course. We don't just name you guys.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I think one of the names that we cannot ignore, and just looking at the accolades here, you can see why.
And remember, until LeBron cuts him, he was the number 1 leading scorer. He had the most unstoppable. Kulang na lang siya na yung logo, di ba? Yung hook shot na yan.
Well,
But he is, again, someone who, again, in that era, saved the Lakers, was really... And, again, a lot of great stories. Played in college, went to Milwaukee, won, then went to LA. Parang he's someone that had the most... I think, even though I love Dirk so much, I can't put the fadeaway over the skyhook because no one has been able to replicate it to the degree. And if you watch... He was shooting it from the free throw line, from baseline. Kulang na lang 3 points, hinook shot niya eh. Sinahook niya. Kulang na lang eh.
that's true.
And again, he dominated in an era where there were a lot of great bigs. He caught Wilt, I'm not sure if he caught Bill Russell. I don't think so, but Moses Malone.
Yeah.
So, and again, number 2 scorer all time. Prior to LeBron, still shows longevity in scoring.
I mean, if there's any player that you can deem great, it's someone who's been named or affiliated with a move in basketball.
Yeah.
And like you said, the Skyhook, Hakeem, that's that guy. Now, this guy has a million moves. The last guy on
James
your
Yap?
list.
Yeah, James.
Maybe. You got me there, pal. But we're talking about NBA bigs here, and you put Hakeem Olajuwon on your list, as in the last guy on your list. I mean, look at his accolades here. It's not as impressive if you compare to all the other bigs that you put in, especially in the winning column. But
Hakeem the
why
Dream.
Hakeem? Yeah.
I think, again, this is the point of the conversation where you really, again, there's 4 or 5 guys that could earn your spot. And based on preference, for me, it's Hakeem. Because first of all, you have guys saying, Jordan would have not won if this guy could get out of the West. Of course, he did get out of the West a lot of times.
Yeah.
But it still gives a lot of gravity and respect that a lot of these players had for him. And remember, beat Shaquille O'Neal in the finals.
Yeah.
Once. And again, the footwork, the ability, and he's great that to this day, players still go to him. Even though I wish we get paid that much to have a one-on-one session with.
We all do.
With Hakeem Olajuwon. But to this day, players are still picking up the phone, and you saw the players that did go to him. Dwight Howard, LeBron James, Carmelo, KD, and these players took what they learned and still apply it today. So imagine in a day now where it's not anymore about power, it's about speed, it's about footwork, and again, those numbers still don't show that he was a defensive force as well.
Yeah, he was a defensive force, and he does have a move named after him, the Dream Shake, of course, in reference.
The demo mo ba?
No, hindi. Ikaw yung big man dito.
Dapat
Dapat ikaw eh. All right, so we have the list here. Okay, the Isaac Goss greatest NBA big men of all time. It's a good list. Is it perfect? I don't think so. No one is. But Isaac, if you were to pick one of those guys to start a franchise with, to build a franchise around, who would it be in their prime?
In their prime? Ooh.
Yeah, syempre, not now.
And we can ask the question too.
Oh.
We can ask now.
It's really a toss-up between Duncan and Shaq because
Really?
Because
Okay.
with Shaq, I know I just have to give the ball to Shaq and we're gonna get to the finals. But
Yeah.
with Duncan, you don't, and because I think that's where you saw the difference. Duncan had no extracurriculars in terms of, yes, he had them, but they never got out. You never hear locker room fights. Or,
Yeah.
Like he just went in, did his work, got everyone in line.
Yeah,
But-
'cause he's boring.
Yeah, but he's
In
not
a good
he plays-
way.
That's the
In a good way.
fundamentals of
Yeah,
being
wait.
off court.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he plays paintball.
Yeah. No.
He's a 6'10" guy playing
Totoo yan,
paintball.
totoo yan.
So I don't think he's bored. It's just that we don't, again, he went to San Antonio. We don't just see the funnier side of him.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, he is boring in a good way. Like, no real drama around the guy.
I like how he
just
includes off-court things, leadership.
Yeah, it matters. Because it matters. It matters. All right, so after the break, we shift from the all-time big men to the ones dominating the league today. Stay tuned. You're watching The Game. Welcome back. You're watching The Game. Usapang Big Man with Isaac Go and my partner, a legendary figure in the UP community, in the UAP, Jet Manuel. Now, we've talked about the Mount Rushmore of NBA big men. Now, let's talk about the stars that are on the way to that mountain today. Isaac Go was too comfortable a while ago. I had to ask him to sit up. Let's take a look at the current generation of big man. How would you describe the contribution nila today? Because it doesn't seem long ago. It felt like a guard-dominant league. Kyrie, Steph, Clay, doing everything. Donovan Mitchell, my guy. You take a look at the bigs today, though. It feels like they're starting to evolve.
I think you're right about that. Because early in the generation, and this was again the reason why Jordan did go higher in the draft, was because Portland wanted to build on a big, and that was the notion before, was we have to develop the bigs. We're gonna invest in bigs. Then when you got again to the 2000s, that's when guys like LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Kobe, there was a shift, and I think maybe you're right. The shift is coming back. And we've seen like the last 3 MVPs or 4 MVPs were bigs. Jokic winning a finals, Giannis winning a finals. Parang yun na eh. Parang you need a big to win.
So in regards to that, let's go talk about 2 of the big men of the future that we have to discuss at the same time here. Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama. Jet.
I mean, yeah, you talk about Chet, you see what he's capable of and the numbers he's putting up. Isaac, what's impressed you and how do you think his game is different now compared to, the big men that we spoke about just a while ago?
And I think first of all, it just starts with the frame. You see his frame, he isn't, again, he's had a 1 year where he got hurt, yet lucky he was able to put on a couple of pounds, but you put him in the 2009s against like Shaq, Dwight, Yao, like they're massive.
Yeah.
For a lack of, so you see now the change in it's now about flexibility, it's about speed, it's about the ability to switch, stay in front of guards and handle the ball as well. So with Chet, and you're seeing now, it may be his first year, but putting up 18 points in a good squad where he's sharing the ball with guys like SGA, Jalen Williams. And you just see it right now that he has potential. He's blocking shots at a higher rate. 3 assists for a big is high also. And
about Victor?
Okay, that's I think when you have Chet here, Victor is 1 notch higher because just got a triple-double today in 21 minutes. And he's just a freak in terms of we thought Giannis was a freak, but this guy in terms of the measurements. And people, again, are afraid that with a guy his size, he's going to get hurt. He's going to get beat up. But at this point, we've seen it. Like, he's doing really well. Yes, he's getting pushed around a little bit, and that's going to come with experience. But Wembanyama, we wouldn't be surprised maybe in a couple of years, he's an MVP candidate.
But another guy on your list, I mean, talk about the frame. This guy has that classic frame, but his game style is totally different from what we've seen in the past. Nikola Jokic, I mean, what with him? You mentioned he's the best player in the NBA right now. Why?
He's averaging almost close to a triple-double right now, won a ring. But it's really, I think Jokic fits the more traditional big, hulking bigs. And people may say he's out of shape, he doesn't have defined muscles, but he is in shape. He is now well-conditioned. He just may not look like the part, but being able to put up 25, 12, and 9, again, those are numbers that we've talked about, probably Westbrook, LeBron, and these are Hall of Fame considerations. So and he doesn't, when we talked about boring with Tim Duncan, the way he carries himself on the court also looks very nonchalant, very relaxed, but the highlight he pulls out, the wraparound passes, the game winners, you see the mix of both relax and chill with the flair and pizzazz.
Yeah, but he's not boring. He has horses, bro. But of course, apart from that, we have to go to another guy who's not boring on and off the court. In fact, very entertaining on social media, Joel Embiid. When you have a guy like Joel Embiid who is almost always in the race for the MVP season after season, you have to feel that the only thing lacking to cement his legacy is probably a championship.
And I think from all the bigs we're saying, Joel Embiid is probably the closest one we have to those traditional, quote-unquote, traditional big men that we've been talking about earlier. But 35, 12, and impressive, the 6 assists. Yes, we agree, he has the individual accolades, he has the numbers, but the playoff success, as you said, just evades him because, again, sometimes that's where you show that it's very difficult to win a champ. It requires a lot of luck because, remember, he had the Ben Simmons issue, the James Harden issue, and remember, he was 1 shot away from, I think that they may beat Milwaukee in that Toronto series if Kawhi does not hit that shot.
Oof, yeah. And you talk about, the last guy on your list, Giannis Antetokounmpo. This guy is kind of a different take on a big? Is he a big of today? Because, but his dominance is really, we see it every time he steps foot on the court.
Yeah, and I want to add on to a quote here that Shaq gave out. He says that people say there's no one like you in the NBA today, and he says, I say yes, there is. Look at Giannis.
I think he doesn't give it to Joel Embiid because Joel, I think, is a lot more content with facing up, taking these jump shots. Unlike Giannis, where in the idea with Shaq is, I'm gonna go to the basket, I'm gonna put you in that in the rim, and you see he plays with so much ferocity, so much intensity. Probably what we see of Shaq when Shaq would put you in a, and you hear the stories when he'll tell these other guards to. Don't put your hand there, little man. I'm gonna break it. And I think Giannis is the one guy who embodies.
The voiceover. The voiceover.
No, it's true. Like, embodies that kind of idea that I'm gonna. If you put your hand in there, you try to reach in there, it's gonna come out broken.
Pwede ka mag-VO artist, bro. But you take a look at the names that you mentioned in around 5 years or so. Who are we talking about the most?
Wemby, because Jokic again. At one point, do the three guys at the back of the list tail off? Because there's always going to be a regression. The question is how much in 5 years, because a lot can happen. Embiid hasn't stayed healthy. Giannis, again, with the struggles right now, what's going to go on? With Jokic, he's probably retiring and racing his horses in 5 years. So it's probably Wemby, in my opinion.
All right, no, we could be talking about his horses, in 5 years.
We have to include that in the stats.
Yeah, next time.
6 horses.
No, horses, that one.
Champion
Okay.
horses.
Champion horses. All right, that's it for today. Isaac, really appreciate you coming on over and really enjoyed our time with you here, and hopefully we can have you again really soon.
Of course. I like the setup.
Yeah, this is a great setup. I love it.
We need a bigger chair, though. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jet Manuel.
And I'm Paulo De Rosario. This has been The Game. Here, guys.